Well, in the case of India, I think one of the most important differences between Indians and Australians is a question of patience. Indian society is a very incremental one. Things occur comparatively slowly, and if we are to operate in India, we have to learn patience. Australians are not good at being patient. We want to get things done, we want things completed, and tick that box and on to the next thing. That doesn't work in India. India actually punishes impatience, and we've got to find ways and means to cope with the different way that the Indians do business or conduct their government operations or government policy in an incremental way. Well, when I first went to Mumbai, I met a very senior Indian businessman who gave me the advice that the most important thing to know about India was that Mumbai was the city in India that makes things happen, and Delhi was a city that stops things happening. Now that's a very Mumbaiker's view of the world, but there's an element of truth in it. Mumbai is a city that provides 30% of the income tax collected in India. It's the financial centre. It's the headquarters of most of the big corporates. So it is a city of money. And it's because of that the city is more cosmopolitan. It has a wider range of cultural activities because they are financed. It has more restaurants and bars and has a different feel from many of the other cities of India. It's much more cosmopolitan. So in terms of the size of Mumbai, really has, Greater Mumbai has the same population as Australia. It's a huge city. In fact, works in some ways as a number of cities rather than one big city. One of the objectives of the Consulate General is actually to build further the linkages in a variety of areas. Already we have a number of educational linkages, but we have a dearth in the cultural, sporting, social areas. Our objective is to, as I said earlier, to broaden the relationship and to find ways where we can change the image of Australia. Indians have a very outdated image of Australia, and Australia has a very outdated image of India. If you ask an Indian what does he, if you say the word Australia, what does he think of? He thinks of cricket and often remnants and leftovers of the White Australia policy. If you ask an Australian what they think of India, they talk about colourful cultural ceremonies, they may talk about poverty, they may talk about elephants or whatever. They don't think of Infosys, they don't think of Whitborough, they don't think of the modern technology that India is developing. Similarly, Indians don't see Australia as an innovative place by general. However, increasingly some of the more astute companies are looking to Australia for new developments in technology and are actually providing finance for the refinement of that technology in India. It's a niche area, it's an area where we're hoping to develop further, but there is this image of Australia amongst the cognoscenti of Australia being very inventive. In terms of the increasing the knowledge, it's certainly not just the government. The government has a certain role to play, both the Indian and Australian governments, but it's also part of educating the media to carry other sorts of stories rather than what they see as pure news stories, and which are often rather negative stories. We've got to find ways of getting the positive side of India through to Australia and of Australia through to India. Now, cricket sometimes is a maligned element in sense that it has been historically a very dominating issue in terms of the discussion between India and Australia. However, it's also something that's very useful to leverage off because Indians are highly interested in cricket. They can tell you more about Australian cricket than Australians can. You can watch Sheffield Shield cricket in India, which you cannot watch on TV in Australia because they have 3 24-hour cricket stations. But putting that aside, it's a stepping stone to build the relationship, and we've got to quite use that to move forward and get people to Australia. I mean, it's really getting people to come to Australia for a significant period of time and to get Australians to a significant. Now, Indian students study in Australia, but very few Australians ever go to India to study for anything more than a couple of weeks. And I think it's really getting those linkages moving, because the word of mouth, the personal experience, are the things that matter in most societies, but particularly in Indian society.